It's the 8th of May 2025. I'm Gary Waterman, a former UK police constable, and since 2022 I've acquired irrefutable, verifiable and corroborative evidence of decades-long international government fraud. It really is the key to all of the world's problems, everybody. I cannot emphasise this enough. It links to everything that has been going on for at least the last 150 years, okay? The international conflicts, the terrorism, the more recent vaccine scandal side of things that we're aware of. It is linked to poverty. It is linked to the disparity between the rich and poor. It is linked to international child trafficking, international drug trafficking. You name it, all of the world's problems are linked back to the same companies in this international government fraud. And as you know, hopefully you've seen my videos, at the moment I'm in the process of researching CERN, the Hadron Collider, and the evidence being acquired from that shows that it is very central to their primary goal in the funneling of the money that they are defrauding from the public. But as a sideline, I just want to have a look at this with you. Now, some of you may have seen these articles from the last few days about a whistleblower claiming $21 trillion has been used and defrauded from the public, it sounds like, to pay for underground cities. And here's some other articles. You can see these were 2 days ago and one at the bottom there 8 hours ago. Going into one of the articles here from the 3rd of May 2025, you can see here, it says, former Bush housing official claims government spent $21 trillion building an underground doomsday base. Now, bearing in mind, I'm in the process of releasing my evidence in relation to the doomsday clock, okay? So they'll be watching everything I'm doing and how the doomsday clock ties in to everything that we're looking at, including CERN, importantly, okay? Further on in the article, it says a former housing official who worked under President George H.W. Bush has made an astonishing claim that the US government spent years funneling in money into the creation of a secret underground city where the rich and powerful can shelter in the event of a near extinction event. Catherine Austin Fitts, who served as the Assistant Secretary of Housing and Urban Development for Housing between 1989 and 1990. Okay, so these dates are fairly important. That is when the Gulf War was in 1990. And those who followed my CERN evidence will know that that links in relation to the World Wide Web creation in 1990. It was actually 1989 and goes through to 1991, which is when Terminator 2 Judgment Day movie came out, which is all very relevant. Anyway, he said, moving on, it says, made the shocking allegations during an appearance on former Fox News host Tucker Carlson's podcast. Although, by the way, he's not responding to my attempts to contact him a few months ago. Although there is no concrete evidence to support her claims, Fitz, 74, is originally from Philadelphia, cited research by Michigan State University economist Mark Skidmore, who released a report in 2017 stating that he and a team of scholars had uncovered $21 trillion in unauthorized spending in the Departments of Defense and Housing and Urban Development for the years 1998 to 2015. Now, if true, this will unquestionably be related to the international fraud on Companies House that is being exposed. But that is not being mentioned. And this is very important. Let's look into this a bit more. According to Wikipedia, Catherine Austin Fitts was born in 1950, is an American investment banker and former public official who served as managing director of Dillon Read & Co. I'm going to come to that company later. And during the presidency of George H.W. Bush as United States Assistant Secretary of Housing and Urban Development for Housing. Now, housing is a huge part of this international government fraud. Okay, remember, this is how I started to uncover the evidence. It was from a company that I was part of, which was a freehold company relating to real estate or property. Reading on, it says she has widely written and commented on the subject of public spending and has alleged several large-scale instances of government fraud. At the top there, you can see that she earned an AA degree from Bennett College in 1970, the year before the World Economic Forum was started, and a BA degree in history from the University of Pennsylvania in 1974. After graduating, she briefly worked as a bartender until one of her customers, who was a director of admissions at the Wharton School, encouraged her to pursue graduate studies. She received her MBA from Wharton in 1978. At the bottom there, you can see information in relation to Dillon Read & Co. that we're going to come to in a minute. Further information about her says, in relation to the US Department of Housing and Urban Development, during the 1988 United States presidential election, Fitts worked on the campaign of George W.H. Bush George H.W. Bush, and was appointed Assistant Secretary of Housing and Urban Development for Housing in the Bush administration, where she was charged with repairing and the department's reputation in the aftermath of the savings and loan crisis. Among her initial observations upon taking office was that the department had a $300 billion portfolio of mortgage insurance, but only employed one certified actuary. The reforms she announced included a plan to sell government foreclosed homes at a 50% discount to non-profit organisations to operate as rentals. Just at the bottom there, it says she resigned her post in 1990. Okay, this is a key year, as for the reasons I've mentioned, following a report that her relationship with Secretary of Housing and Urban Development Jack Kemp had soured. It says here that she returned to the private sector after being offered a job for the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, but turned it down. After leaving government, Fitz founded Hamilton Securities, an employee-owned brokerage house which she ran until 1998. In 1993, Hamilton Securities won a contract with HUD to manage its $500 billion investment portfolio. On the research, it states that in 2017, you can see towards the bottom here, Fitz co-authorised a report with Michigan State University economist Mark Skidmore that claimed to find $21 trillion in unauthorised spending, in otherwise defrauded money from the masses, by the US Department of Defense and US Department of Housing and Urban Development over a 17-year period. At the top there, you can see that she has researched and commented on government spending in a 2004 study published in World Affairs, the Journal of International Issues. She purported to find evidence that a very large proportion of the nation's wealth is being illegally diverted since several decades into secret, unaccountable channels and programs with unspecified purposes, including covert operations and subversions abroad, and clandestine military research and development at home. Public institutions have been infiltrated and taken over by shadowy groups in the service of powerful private and vested interests, often at the expense of the common good. You can see in the middle there, it says, during the United States presidential election in 2016, Fitz supported the campaign of Donald Trump, massively implicated in this international government fraud. Huge deception. He is not your friend, no matter what you think. He is not speaking the truth of this criminal system and suggesting the right methods to safeguard humanity and the children. He is massively implicated and he's linked to Export Manor. Further down it says Trump retweeted one of Fitz's tweets which linked to an article on Breitbart. So they're obviously fairly close, okay, in relation to their collaborative agenda. She has given interviews in alternative media such as Kia TV, alleging fraud in the US central banking system and US government. $21 trillion have been stolen, a massive fraud, but she's not talking about Companies House. Another article here, because I was trying to contact her, links her to Cambridge House International, and this appears to be her, and it talks about other companies that she's worked for. So she's a publisher of the Solari Reports, the managing member of Solari Investment Advisory Services LLC and C Lane Advisory LLC. Catherine served as managing director and member of the board of directors of the Wall Street Investment Bank, etc., etc. So I've contacted her, and you can see here, this is my email address where I've filled out the form to contact her, saying I'm a former police officer, fraud deliberately facilitates serious crimes. And at the bottom, I'm not going to show it, I've put my mobile number, my WhatsApp number for her to contact me. So a quick bit of research in relation to the company that she used to work for. Dylan Reed brings up this on Companies House when you search it on Google. And it links straight to the fraud. I recognise the address as 85 Portland Street. It's linked throughout the fraud. On the incorporation documents, you have Dylan Reed Capital Ltd. of an address in the Seychelles, a tax haven. This is the company she used to work for. You also have a company of Strategic Development Corp. And when you research Dylan Reed separately within Companies House, it brings up these. Dylan Reed Capital Management UK Limited, dissolved in February 2012, the same year as the Higgs boson or God's particle was created by CERN. You can see the various different company names. And the second one down, you can see the name changed in July 2000 before the World Trade Center disaster and changed its name afterwards. in 2002. Within the selection of documents on the filing history from the 1st of January 1995, and this 1995 date does appear to become relevant with a selection of these documents within the filing history of a lot of the companies. Well, that is the year when the Hakluyt Advisory Company linking to the Russian government was created. And on the incorporation document, you can see Mavis June Latta and Jordans and Sons in the corner. It's a criminal fraudulent entity company, and this now links immediately to Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited, because Swift Incorporations Limited is on the incorporation document for Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited. When you research Swift Incorporations Limited, this name, Mavis June Latta, is linked to that company on the incorporation document. That company also links to Harrods, and I suspect that is linked very closely to it's certainly linked to around the time of the death of the Prince of Wales, and the same time, within 2 months, Princess Diana's death, the original founder of the Church of Satan also died, and I suspect the Church of Satan was infiltrated around that time. On another part of the document, just to confirm, Jordans and Sons. A quick search of the other company that she founded shows these results. Hamilton Securities Limited PLC. Securities Limited. Started in 2018. Real estate agencies, and going in through some of the registered directors. You have this person, Andrew Sidders, that links to Salisbury Securities Limited. Dissolved in 2020, August, okay, a key time for around the COVID inquiry. And you can see the address here, 45 King William Street. This address features throughout the fraud and makes reference, of course, to the royal family, who are massively implicated. It's an old company, started in 1924, changed its name in 1985, the same year that Swift Incorporations Limited was incorporated. You can see it states it has a previous company name of Samuel Sidders and Son Limited. And this is the incorporation document. You can see on the signed documents, they appear to have deliberately tried to redact or make it very difficult to read the company name. Notice how the rest of the document is all fully legible other than the company name. So that's if there was any alterations or commas in the wrong place, which would be deliberate, okay? This isn't a mistake by them. They know full well that the register has to match the incorporation document. Then that has given them the opportunity to hide that. And further down, you can see it appears as though they've forged the document. So it looks as though they've gone back onto the document and changed it to match the register after the incorporation, probably since this fraud has been exposed. Within the company, Stanley Sidders links to a golf club. Now, football clubs feature massively, but there's also a lot of golf clubs in relation to the research of the fraud. Burnham Beeches Golf Club, fraudulent company, it's not registered properly. They forged the register with the in the brackets. And within the company, John Mangan links to freight companies. Now, there's so many here, so many links to the fraud. I'm just going to show you some of them. FTS Freight Forwarders Limited in the process of liquidation. Many of the companies now shown within this part of the research, and you can go and look at them all, are now in liquidation. Remember, this is coming from that person's founded company. The person talking about fraud and siphoning of money prior to 2018, she's been saying it. And yet here she is involved in fraudulent criminal entity companies, linking in and allowing the ability to launder money. And you can see this company links to Interpath. If you followed my evidence, you'll know that's massively important. Interpath Limited of 10 Fleet Place. That address and company links to top officials in the UK government, and you can see it's in liquidation. And of course, freight companies will be used for all sorts of things, including international child trafficking. And this company was incorporated in 1975. 4 years before the creation of the World Wide Web that links to CERN, and 4 years after the World Economic Forum started. And it's linked to Slaughter and May on the incorporation. You will know that's a very important company in the fraud, and is a criminal, fraudulent legal firm, a huge one, and links to very key points within the international fraud, big companies. Within this company, Severin Garnham connects to Eurotunnel. Okay, now I'm only showing you some of this, but this now makes links back into all of the fraud that I've been reporting, because the Eurotunnel features several times, and Eurotunnel is obviously a huge example of how they can exploit and victimize the masses through the taxation by requesting more tax to pay for it, forging their accounts and sending the money into offshore accounts. Okay, that's a crime against the masses through the taxation system. And this person within FTS, Kevin Goggin, links to various companies: Tax Systems Holdings Limited, Tax Systems Limited. Looking at this company, incorporated in 2003. All the different names there. Unsurpassed PLC, original name, 2 years after the World Trade Center disaster. And it links to Lucian James Limited. I think we come to in a minute regarding another point of research regarding FITS. And Lucian James has featured throughout the fraud. Also linked to Global Logistics Worldwide Limited, Film Media Services Limited, appearing to be potentially linking into Hollywood. Dissolved as I'm exposing the fraud and continuing to do so. October 2022. Started in 1984. And the original name, War Tour Limited. Also Nova Holdings, I've just put this in there, and this has just gone back to one of the other screenshots. Going back to the director that was linked to the FTS freight company, we also have FTS Road Transport Limited linked to them. That dissolved in November 2024 as I'm exposing the fraud, and it was started in 1978. All right, so it's been around a while. You can see the original name at the bottom. Within that company, Stephen Smith connects to Catalyst Media Group PLC. Remember, they have full centralized control of everything and all information. Some of it slipping through the net, though, thankfully. But they're trying to suppress and stop the truth coming out. And as the exposure happens, they are forced to release more evidence. And as you can see, this was linked to Doomsday and a tunnel system, a city, as I'm releasing evidence of Doomsday. So they're trying to make it appear as though there's a reason for this money being laundered. And I'm going to come to a little bit of a theory in this in a minute. But you can see this company here was incorporated in 2000. It links to Stanley Davis Group, which features throughout the fraud. That links to David Cameron. And then the same director we were just looking at, Atlas Interactive Management Limited. No doubt that will link to Atlas, which was part of the Atlas experiment for the CERN Hadron Collider. Here's Atlas Interactive Management. You see the original names, and look when it original name at the bottom, Councillors in Public Policy, from 1991. Remember, we've been talking about this year. It's the year that the Gulf War ended. It's the year that Terminator 2 Judgment Day was released, and it's the year before Companies House becomes an electronic register, which ties in with the creation of the World Wide Web, all allowing this system of crime and fraud, leading to what appears to be CERN being the conclusion of all of this, and potentially them creating a point of singularity or black hole to invert everything. And I'm sorry to say that is what all of the evidence is pointing to do. Now, I think it can be averted, but we need the masses to do the right thing in relation to all of this. And you can see it changed its name at the bottom only after the World Trade Center disaster in 2002. And on the incorporation document, very important link, Michael John Hope, which is a name on a lot of the incorporation documents linking to the fraud, and it has the London Law Agency at the bottom, the second most important company in the fraud that is now dissolved since I've exposed it, and was incorporated in 1967, the year after the foundation of the Church of Satan. Research regarding Solari, okay, which is the company that she's now appearing to be linked to. Solari Investment brings up Solaris, okay, so one letter difference. It's very possible that they've altered the web page to reflect this because they realise the research will be done on this. So we have Solaris Investments, but another one that's interesting at the bottom here, when you go into Companies House and just search the word Solari, it brings up SFI Electrical Limited with an original name of Solaris. Where is it on the next? At the bottom here, it had a name of Solaris Finance and Investments Limited. And the previous name was Links Forecourt Holdings. So on Solaris, you can see the address. SFI Electrical Limited is Hampshire. It's where Deborah Fleming was in the NHS, and the Flemings are massively implicated in this, remember, okay? And they initiated my removal for refusing to file the forged bank documents. And you can see when they changed the name from Solaris was in May 2024. As I'm, I mean, that's as I'm exposing the fraud, of course. And on the incorporation document for this company, Waterloo Legal and Company Services. Waterloo is, as you've known from my previous evidence, links to the Freemasons, to the international child trafficking, international fraud against humanity. Within the company, Emma Graves connects to Pinto Investments Limited. Pinto Investments Limited is now dissolved in 2018. And that's as the other company was created the same year that she was connected to. And it's the London Law Agency on the incorporation document. Again, David Pinto within that company connects to Motor Accident Solicitors Services Limited. Now, insurance is a massive part of this because it allows them a constant flow of money into a pot that they can just steal from the public, and then they can reduce claims acceptabilities for insurance, etc. Also, if it's life insurance and many people die, then that means that those that money is accessible for them. And you can see an address of King Street in Bristol, and it dissolved as I'm exposing the fraud in 2023, even though it was created in 1997 at the bottom there, 4 years before the World Trade Center disaster. And on the incorporation document, the same companies that start in Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited, Swift Incorporations, and Jordans Limited, which is a criminal entity company. Jordans is the most important company because it was created in 1965. It's fraudulent, and the illegality continues, and that is the year before the Church of Satan was founded. Within the company, Bernard Rowe connects to White House companies. Now, I've seen some of these before, but I haven't focused on them. Bearing in mind, she has connections to the White House, and there's a couple of White House companies here. And then within the company, there's someone with a surname of Kennedy. Now, this starts tying in and will tie in, I'm sure, with my evidence I'm doing surrounding the supposed death of JFK in 1963. I suspect that's all part of the international collaborative deception. We know there's many conspiracy theories around it. It is unquestionably going to be connected into this fraud. So Claire Kennedy links to some Homestart companies. Within the Homestart company, Janet Hewitt connects to various Hampshire companies. You can see here, Hampshire Voluntary Sector Children and Young People's Alliance, Tadley and District Citizens Advice Bureau. Okay, so this now links into the same network of fraud because they have all Citizens Advice Bureaus, the first point of call for anyone for any legal advice, covered as part of this fraud, because it immediately allows them to shut down or silence people that may be risking uncovering and exposing this at the very early stage before it even goes to the legal side of things, through the legal process. And she links to Kennedy and Kennedy Associates within that company. Christopher Kennedy. You can go over this, okay? I know I'm going quite fast, but I want to get back to the CERN evidence because it's so important. Christopher Michael Kennedy links to golf companies now, okay? And within the UK Golf Company, we have Lucian James Limited again. That's the same company that we just looked at with the other research coming in from Fitz. And you have within Lucian James, G4S, Group 4 Security, okay, which then links back into the Association of Chief Constables and Sir Paul Lord Condon. Lord Sir Paul Condon, okay, who was a Metropolitan Chief Constable and a relation of, I believe, Jock Condon that I worked with in Dorset Police. Group 4 Security, where I suspect they were contracting out through criminal fraudulent entity companies the taxation to private security contracts and reducing the police numbers, which tied into Theresa May introducing a lot of this. And that was the time when I actually resigned from the police a couple of years later, because I realised they were reducing the police too much. And they're linked here, the Lucian James, this is Climate Change Capital. I'm just showing you some of them. Merrill Lynch World Mining Trust Limited, which links to the Bank of America. When you look at that company, its original name, BlackRock World Mining Trust, so it links into BlackRock. And what they're doing is sharing company names and just moving the names all around to avoid the accountability in relation to the fraud against humanity. And here you go, JP Morgan Income and Capital Trust PLC with Lucian. There's lots more I could go into. Trinity Mirror, which is the media companies again, dissolved as I'm starting to expose the fraud, April 2022, linked to the fraud via the address. Then you have connections to the Middle East. Okay, remember this is international government fraud. More White House companies, the White House Watergate Bay. You've heard of the Watergate scandal? Okay, this is all connected, everybody. This is really the key to humanity's salvation. I cannot emphasize this enough. This company, White House Watergate Bay, dissolved a month before the outbreak, okay, in Wuhan. Then we have a connection via Lucia James to K-Swiss. So we have a Swiss connection. And also Thorpe Park Golf Course. Thorpe Park Golf Course dissolved in November 2002 as I'm exposing the fraud. 22, sorry. Then it links into Lucian James. This is still Portland companies. Portland is an area off of Dorset. Okay, Portland Island. If you look on and go back on the research, you'll see the Jewish company also has a Portland company on it. This Jewish company is the one that has the Charles Darwin Trust, links to the NHS, linked to Madeleine McCann, and another link to Switzerland, with one of the directors having an address of Switzerland and none of the others. Here we have a football link again via Lucian James. And that just went back to one of the other screens. So why is Catherine Austin Fitts not mentioning the system of crime and fraud? Well, let's think about this. We know they are planning to kill many, many people. That's what the evidence suggests. And we can tell that simply by looking at the Genocide Act 1969. Now, somebody has mentioned this before, and I've recently seen it on another group that I'm on, so I think it's worth mentioning this now. So the Genocide Act of 1969, this was the same year that Charles was made the Prince of Wales, which is very relevant. Okay, and it was an act of Parliament of the United Kingdom. It gave effect to the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide, approved by the General Assembly of the United Nations in 1948. Okay, everybody, this is the same year as the Israel-Arab War. This ties in with the Doomsday Clock. This ties in with the Association of Chief Constables and many other things around this time linking into this. Okay, and Charles is heavily implicated in all of this. I suspect he's not even a real king, and he's an imposter, and they very likely murdered the real royal family. But that's another load of evidence. So the Genocide Act, okay, was incorporated in 1969. But look when it was repealed, on the 1st of September 2001. Now this enabled them to remove the liability and accountability for their karmic law against the crimes that they would be carrying out, linking in to the satanic agenda, and I suspect creating ultimately a point of singularity or a black hole using hadron colliders to try and end everything, or at least invert and collapse everything that we know. And we're going to come to that more in the CERN document. So why publicize this? Well, they're under pressure because of the overwhelming, irrefutable evidence that's been exposed. There's no coincidence in the timing that she is saying this. But I suspect what they have told many people is that there is an impending apocalyptic natural event, okay, to maintain control of those individuals to fit their agenda. And possibly they're going to try and make them believe that that is the case, all go into their tunnel systems. And then I think what will happen is those tunnel systems will be flooded. And I've had information that that will happen. Whether that is a planned judgment against those individuals for allowing the rest of humanity to suffer as part of their crimes and then trying to save themselves, or whether that will be the intervention of our Creator. And I know there's a Creator 100%. I am being guided by our Creator, and I'm going to come to that a little bit later on what I'm going to do next. So I do believe these tunnel systems are very likely there. But I do believe it's part of the deception against humanity. And when we look at the Genocide Act, they haven't repealed this because of a natural disaster, an asteroid or whatever it is they're going to claim may cause humanity to, if that's the case. You know, this is them planning to do something. But I suspect it will be ultimately to invert and take out everything through a point of singularity, okay, linking in to the connection to the satanic realm and potentially that it being infiltrated by the Egyptians. It does appear as though they haven't got a clue what to believe in, and it's possible that all of this is to try and get the true Creator to come forward, or for them to get the answers. But you know, we can't rely on that at the moment. It appears as though we've got pure evil in control. And on a very basic foundation, right on the foundation of this, we have a criminal financial system in place. Okay, that's a fact, everybody. They have committed very serious crimes to defraud the public of trillions, but also deliberately facilitate the crimes against humanity, including international conflicts, terrorism, and the abuse of children. So at its very foundation, that has to change, even if everything else is a deception. But it doesn't appear to be a deception, so we have to consider that it's all real. Okay, and this plan against humanity is really in force and in play. So this narrative, I suspect she is being controlled still by the fraud of Catherine Fitz. I suggest that what they're trying to do is convince the public and the people that they've got control of, because they've had to control the police, the intelligence agencies, the military, as part of this massive international collaborative deception against most of humanity, okay? So they would have made certain promises, whether it be financial promises. A lot of people may have been coercively controlled through paedophilia or pornography or evidence that they've got against those individuals via the internet, okay? And there may even be use of, and the evidence does suggest this, remember, hypnosis. Hopefully you've seen my evidence tying in to Darren Brown, who was a hypnotist, and that shows you that they can convince at least one person that there is going to be an apocalyptic event. Okay, and that was about an asteroid. So it's very likely that they have convinced all of these people they've got working for them that they're going to be saved in relation to an event, but it being deception. And it could be that the judgment will be held against those individuals in those tunnel systems. Because remember, the people involved in this international government fraud are also linked to scripture. Now, they're not all going to, I can't believe they're all going to be bad. So therefore, there's potentially another motive behind it for them to remove evil. Potentially. We have to consider that. I struggle to believe that there is so much evil. But the only way forward in all of this is for the full disclosure of truth and for humanity to unite. Even the people that have been gaining from this fraud. At the moment, that can be put on a back burner, because we must send humanity and the earth into a trajectory of truth, transparency and trust. And we need to unite to do that. We can focus on how these people are dealt with at a later time. Okay? Anyway, I'm going to do the next part of the evidence in relation to the CERN Hadron Collider. Thanks very much for watching this video. Take care.